Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in Milwaukee Rising with Technically. I'm Sorrina Beecher, the lead reporter for the region, and every week we feature an individual or group that is shaping Milwaukee's economic landscape and highlighting solutions to help build a more equitable and inclusive future. So today we are talking with Marcell Jackson. He recently launched Ambition Center Milwaukee. It's a private office and co-working space for entrepreneurs on the North Side. And we're going to get his thoughts on how Milwaukee can do a better job of supporting its entrepreneurs. So welcome, Marcell. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And you guys just celebrated your 6-month milestone. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
would love for you to tell our viewers a little bit about Ambition Center Milwaukee.
Yeah, thank you. So Ambition Center is the northernmost co-working space in the city of Milwaukee. We provide the workspace needs to individuals throughout the city by private offices, dedicated desks, shared offices, and event space.
And what inspired you to launch the co-working space?
Oh, yes. So I decided to launch this in the midst of the pandemic. So a lot of my career has been, I had the ability to work from home, but I'm a self-proclaimed extrovert. I love being around people. I love being around other individuals and just being in the office. So when the pandemic hit, wasn't the best. It wasn't the funnest for me. And as I started to survey co-working spaces throughout the city, a lot of them were located downtown, near downtown, or in the suburbs. So, and previously I was already commuting to the suburbs, so I wanted something a little bit more closer to home. So I thought if I'm experiencing this and the world is experiencing this, there are other people who want a space, need a space to come, to collaborate, to get work done, a little bit more focused than the home and a little bit more private than a coffee shop. So.
Yeah, and I also understand that this is one of the few Black-owned co-working spaces in the country. How did you kind of find that out? Because you're the one who shared that information with me.
Yes. So I had the idea of a co-working space for a long time now. And of course, I wanted to see what's out there. And yeah, in doing the research, I found that there were 56 out of the 4,000
No.
co-working spaces were Black owned in the entire nation, which is an issue, which is a problem, right? I believe that Black owned co-working spaces are super important
Mhm.
because what I've been hearing just from my own experience and also from members is it's just a little bit of a woosah, especially if you're coming from a corporate environment where you have to go and be there and smile and microaggressions and all of the things that happen in the workplace that happen everywhere sometimes. Co-working spaces, especially if they're Black owned and kind of a top of mind with the Black consumer and the Black professionals, become more of a safe space to work to get things done.
Absolutely. And it's really important too, just when we think about entrepreneurs and how isolating the journey can be sometimes. I know I'm one as well. I know you're one as well. And can you talk to me a little bit about that feeling of isolation? Because you had mentioned to me that it wasn't your first time working from home, but the pandemic sort of added this extra layer because we really couldn't go anywhere.
Yes. Yes, it is. Entrepreneurship is already deemed super, super lonely. Believe something around about almost 90% of the world are employees. So that
Mhm.
small population of entrepreneurs and CEOs and founders, right? It's really, really small. So I love the phrase that I heard through just co-working is, hey, you can work for yourself, but you don't have to work by yourself.
Hmm.
I believe having that network of other people with that shared entrepreneurial experience definitely helps because there might be something that you're struggling with that they already went through, or vice versa, or just to know that you're not in it alone.
Sure. And I also just want to share with the viewers like, this isn't your only hat. You wear a lot of hats in the city. You're also an engineer, and there's not a whole lot of Black engineers out there either. Can you talk to me a little bit about your journey to becoming an engineer, being from Milwaukee, and finding yourself at one of, our biggest corporations here in the state?
Yeah. Honestly, I knew I wanted to be an engineer from a very, very early age. But again, to your point, it's not something that you saw growing up or saw a ton of. So hopefully, having more Black engineers around will definitely change that. I was 17 when I met my first Black engineer. He worked for We Energies, or Wisconsin Electric Company, which is an electric company here in Milwaukee, if you don't know, in the state of Wisconsin. Yeah, so I met him, tried to shadow him, tried to understand. It's like, wait, we exist. They're there. They're doing it. But that did not fall through. But how did I stumble upon engineering? I was always, from a child, the one to, hey, Marcell, the computer isn't working. Go fix it. The radio isn't working. The VCR isn't working, or DVD player, right?
It's a
So I
throwback.
was, I was, yeah, exactly. So I was that person, like the techie person. And around the age 13, I heard the term electrical engineer, and I was like, boom, that's it. That's something I want to do. And speaking of not seeing a ton of engineers throughout the city, I didn't see a ton of Black professionals in the city either. So I left.
Mhm.
So I went to North Carolina A&T, which is a historically Black college in Greensboro, North Carolina. And it's actually the university that graduates the most minority engineers in the nation. So it's like, hey, I know I want to do this. I know I want to go. Let me
Right.
go somewhere where, engineering is celebrated. So yeah.
And that is something that, in Milwaukee that we talk a lot about is sort of this brain drain, right? Like a lot of, especially, professionals of color, they're not seeing the same kind of opportunities to climb the ladder here. They're not seeing a whole lot of people that look like them in their workspaces. And they end up leaving. A lot of them go to Atlanta, they go to LA, they go to some of the other big cities, Chicago, New York. Once you left here, what attracted you back? Like, what drew you back into Milwaukee?
Great story, right? So I went from North Carolina to Pennsylvania to Texas, and then it was a personal reason to come back. So my then girlfriend, now wife, she's from Milwaukee as well. She wanted to come back, so she stayed in Milwaukee. She went to college here. She went to graduate school here. So her leaving to Texas was her first time really leaving, going out of state and everything. She's like, nope, I want to go back. And I'm like, all right, I've been gone since I was 18. I can move back. And luckily, just mentioned the corporation I work for, I was able to stay within the same business and
Mhm.
land a new role that's headquartered here in Milwaukee. So it ended up being seamless. Yeah. And I can say, I want to say, seeing it through the lens of 18-year-old Marcell who left versus I came back at the age of 26, different. Very, very,
Really?
very different. Yeah, there was a lot more. I found more Black professionals around the city, because I think as you go and grow and mature, now you're able to see some things. And then once
Mhm.
you're in other cities, you realize that, hey, Milwaukee isn't that bad, right? So I was able to see that, especially going to college in a smaller city. It's had like two movie theaters versus Milwaukee. It's you start to see and compare and contrast. But what it also showed me is the opportunity and potential. So if I see a bunch of successful Black people in Dallas, Fort Worth, where I was living, like, we could do this in Milwaukee as well. Like, there's no reason why we can't. So coming through with that lens, like, it definitely was a game changer.
How did that change your approach to, just your work as an entrepreneur now? I mean, you work full time.
Yep.
You have a full time day job. You're doing this as a side hustle for now. How has that sort of perspective changed since you've come back and you're now doing this for yourself?
um Yes, 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 yes. So I haven't. I don't know if I'll make the leap to be full time, 100% aligned to entrepreneurship. I still like, again, the tech side. Like, I'm very still like that part of everything else. But yeah, I think it just showed me a lot more possibilities. So I ran into other people who had businesses, who had a corporate gig or started a nonprofit and still had a corporate job. So I felt, especially coming back here, like, I don't have to necessarily choose between the two.
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about a lot of things, and I'm like, I can do it all. It's just, when do I do it? When do I prioritize it? And it's kind of carrying each of those lived experiences from different states with me here to Milwaukee, and still
Mhm.
relying on that network to say, like, hey, we have examples of these, right? We can do it. So
Yeah.
that's that.
So, as someone who, was worked hard and was able to land into a good career, a lucrative career, as an electrical engineer. What has been like your greatest challenge, kind of making a transition to an entrepreneur, kind of adding that hat on too?
Um, yes, I would say, well, I feel like time is the ultimate answer, right? When do you
Sure.
find the time to do everything? The other thing that I found my biggest challenge is just shifting, like switching from on to off. It's because if you're
Mhm.
already in that
Yeah.
journey in that field, like if I'm studying, doing something very, very technical, right? Hey, I have to go. And if I have to switch out and take a meeting or take a call now, like now I'm thinking about, or I have a tour with another entrepreneur. So now we're talking, we're vibing, they're telling me about their business, if they need office space, regardless if they become a member or not, but it's another connection, it's someone else. So now I'm thinking of 103 ideas of what we can do, how we can expand. And it's like, oh, I got to go back to tech and go back to this problem. So I believe that's been the big challenge, just managing that. And then I can say with this business, having a brick and mortar, right? Who opens a brick and mortar in the midst of a pandemic? Me. The funding piece have been another challenge. So this space is say 90% self-funded. When you start a business, that's a little bit more capital intensive, and you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have the most traditional lenders require 2 years of 2 years of experience or bank history and everything else. It's like, but
Mhm.
if I need the funds to start the business, but I need the history of the business to get the funds, it's kind of like
Yeah.
one of those things. So yeah, so that's I would say probably the next challenge as far as how to go and get started. So access to resources and funding was a challenge.
I'm curious when you came up with this idea, because I remember you were telling me in an earlier conversation that you were, driving past an industrial park and you were like, I wonder how a space like this could work in an area that already has other businesses going on. I'm curious what to know, like how you came up with the concept for the co-working space. And if you could just share with our viewers, some of the amenities and things that they can expect from Ambition Center.
Yes, it was early on. So I was a senior at Riverside High School, and driving past a business park is like business park is a ton of businesses all with their own doors. So you just walk in and out. It's like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a whole bunch of businesses under one roof, right? So I just thought about it, dreamt about it a little bit. Clearly, high school versus when I open now, two different times. Yeah, so but just thinking about a space, just a hub for people to come together to work on their businesses, and plus just subscribing to the belief, if I'm an ambitious person in the city of Milwaukee, there has to be more people like me. Like I
Mhm,
can't believe
mhm.
all the ambitious people are in Texas or Charlotte or Atlanta. There has to
Right.
be people right here in Milwaukee. So some of the amenities are private offices, shared workspace. We also have a space that doubles as an event space, and we have a content creation room. So I wanted to make sure that creatives, podcasters, videographers, photographers had a space, because sometimes when we think about traditional office spaces, we don't really think about the creative side of it. So the biggest office in here, instead of renting it out to a tenant, is dedicated there. So it's that. It has like a green screen, podcast mic, ring light, pretty much a room where you can come and transform it however you need to create content or to meet with your clients. So those are some of the amenities, including conference rooms as well.
Okay. And I also understand that you want to be more than just a co-working space. A lot of co-working space pop up, right? And people come, they do their work and they leave. But you actually kind of wanted to expand your offerings. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about the workshops that you're putting on now, you're putting on in the future that might be able to better connect entrepreneurs and help them grow their businesses?
Yes, so we're all about investing in people, investing in communities, especially we're on the north side of Milwaukee, which is typically experienced a lot of divestment. So, hey,
Mhm.
let's invest in it. Let's bring a bunch of people here so they can kind of reimagine the north side and see the potential here. So we've done decent amount of events here. So when we started, we did free professional headshots for the community. So that was completely open to the public. We had about 22 people come to that event. A photographer volunteered his time, so he had that. And we also have an initiative called Collaboration Corner, where we have entrepreneurs and business owners who are connected to the city of Milwaukee come in, give an hour of their time for free just to educate on different topics such as business credit, building a website, small business financials, how to scale your business, how to start a nonprofit, podcasting for your small business branding. And we have one coming up titled Real Estate Investment 101. So different topics, they're open to the community to just come to see the space and to learn. So yeah.
Sure. What is your goal with opening up this space? Like when you really sat down and you're like, you know what, I think I'm going to take the leap. I really want to do this. Now you're 6 months in, you've reached
Yep.
a 6-month milestone. What's your grand vision?
Yeah, so my grand vision, I want Ambition Center to be the launch pad for individuals either within their career or for their businesses. So I want people to say, hey, because I was a member of Ambition Center, I was able to accomplish XYZ. I was able to grow my business. Actually, one of my early office members, she was here for about 2 months and she graduated to her own building. So she does counseling and wants to open up a group home. So she was able to come work, her business expanded and she graduated. So it's bittersweet, right? Because I'm losing a member, right?
Yeah.
But like she's going on to something bigger and better. So I want that story to just kind of multiply as we start to just invest in more entrepreneurs in the city and more professionals in the city.
One thing I forgot to ask you is how can someone become a member of Ambition Center Milwaukee?
Yes, we recommend that take a tour first because we want you to come see the space, see if it's a good fit, if it's a good vibe. So come take a tour, and yeah, then someone from our team will send over a contract depending on the level of membership that you want to go to, and we'll go from there. So it's a fairly simple process, and we are currently accepting new members. So if you're
I'm
interested,
going to drop your website below because I know
sure.
you guys can go find out a little bit more information about Ambition Center MKE there as well. But one thing I wanted to talk to you before I let you go is, and you kind of touched on it before too, is sort of this gap that a lot of BIPOC owned businesses face when they're trying to find resources for funding, for branding, for marketing, and just trying to get a better understanding of how best to run their business. One is, why do you think the gap persists at this point, right, in 2022? And how can we get better at supporting our entrepreneurs in the city, across all different races, ethnicities, religion, all of that? How can we just get better at supporting entrepreneurs, period?
Yeah, so I would say, hey, why does that exist in the city of Milwaukee? I had someone, they referred to Milwaukee as like a speakeasy. So back in the day, these were places that were open. They weren't supposed to be open, but if you knew, you knew. So it feels like if you're I don't want to necessarily say in the in crowd, but if you're in the know, in the know, because once you know about one resource, it continues to open and then another one connects you and another one connects you and another one connects you. And you start to do that. So I believe one, like the biggest thing is just awareness. So not being aware of the opportunities, but that comes with a lot more sharing. I think that comes with a lot more collaboration and things like that at a co-working space. You might have a potential business partner, or you might hear about a grant that you don't know about and someone else there received it. So let me tell you about it. So sometimes it's that awareness piece, because it's how do you reach all the, let's say, Black entrepreneurs in the city of Milwaukee, because there's not one place for you to go. So some information is disseminated here and there, but it's through that sharing. So as we start to tap more into the networks and sharing, that's like that's the biggest thing. So I would say just the awareness.
Awesome. And is there any other sort of ideas that you have for how people can support entrepreneurs? How can they support Ambition Center Milwaukee? Obviously, go take a tour, maybe become a member.
Yeah, so definitely come take a tour or tell a friend, tell someone you know who might need workspace. We also had a member that joined last week. So he works part-time in Arizona and in Milwaukee. He's like, hey, I just really need a home base for when I'm here, when I'm meeting with clients and everything else. So yeah, so even people who might, just come back for periodically. make sure that you just tell people about it. So that's a way to support. If you are an entrepreneur, you want to give back, or if you have, regardless of your expertise, maybe you're a professional and you're specializing in something, and you think it'll benefit just the community, you could definitely come and reach out and sign up to be part of Collaboration Corner. We would love to have you. Yeah.
And I also
Yes.
I wanted to sort of talk about your work in the community outside of your full-time job, outside of Vision Center MKE. You're also mentoring young kids in areas of STEM. Do you want to share with our viewers a little bit about that?
Yes. So I would admittedly say a lot of the mentoring and volunteerism happened pre-COVID. um, but yeah, so I think it goes back to the fact of me not seeing too many Black engineers or Black professionals in the community growing up. So I wanted to make sure that I am visible. The best way to do that is just to go reach the people where they are. So did I guess a lot of things involving STEM. So I was the community liaison between um, GE and 53rd Street School. So I was able to start a robotics club. That's something they said they wanted, and go and actually expose them to a world of robotics. A bunch of middle school students who are interested in coding and robotics and STEM. So I don't know. I actually love that part of it, just because the statistics have shown that usually students, if they're not interested in math and science by sixth or seventh grade, then chances are they wouldn't pursue it as a career. So middle school is super pivotal, just to expose them and allow them to kind of just grow within that area. And that robotics team is, I'm no longer the mentor, but it's still there, it's still growing. So I'm super excited about that. I also taught mobile app development temporarily at Cyber High School, because mobile apps are pretty cool. So how do we start to introduce this group of freshmen in high school about apps and development? And also was a volunteer for the Black and Latino Male Achievement. So as we talk about communities, I was aligned to Washington High School, where every month we'll get the group of young men, we'll discuss a topic, we'll have food, and it just be different Black and brown men from the community there to speak with them about different topics, or just having that safe space. So yeah, that was just like some of the some of the things that I was involved in. Again, just trying to, how do I make sure, since I think I mentioned before, like I already had the flexibility to work from home pre-pandemic. So how am I making sure that I'm leveraging my time and my energy to make sure that I'm investing back in the community that raised me? So yeah.
Now that you're in this space, you've been back in Milwaukee for a few years. How do you feel about the landscape, like the entrepreneurship landscape, about just the economic landscape in general, especially for people of color? Do you feel like it's getting better? Are you optimistic? What's your
Yes. Yes, I am optimistic. I feel like it's growing, especially with organizations like MKE Black, which has a directory of over 500 Black-owned businesses within the city, which is amazing because I could probably name 30 off the top of my head, not 500. So just even to have access to that. So I believe that we are getting better in the sense of visibility, and I believe also just the climate that we're in is entrepreneurship. I don't believe it was something that was spoken about 20 years ago as much as it is today. So just having that visibility and awareness. But honestly, believe we need more. We need more. We think about historically, like Bronzeville, where there's a bunch of storefronts, a bunch of Black-owned businesses here, there, thriving, connections, and everything else. It's so that part I think we can get a little bit more help, or just start more with just a collaboration amongst Black-owned businesses. So we realize that the more we collaborate, we have more power. We can go for bigger contracts. Maybe I can do this service, I can provide the space, and you can provide the education. And how do we just utilize collaboration to just grow and expand?
Well, I would say that it definitely starts with people like you, coming back home into the community, and doing big things. I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing with our readers a little bit more about Ambition Center MKE. and for the insightful conversation. But it doesn't have to end right there. So we're going to be posting a recap of Marcell's story on the Technically website, and we're going to be sharing it in next week's newsletter. So to subscribe, simply look at the link below. It's Milwaukee Rising at technically/subscribe. You can also continue the conversation. You can shoot me an email. Don't be shy at milwaukee@technically.com. We can also put you in touch with Marcell so that you can get involved. And we thank you guys for joining us. Marcell, we wish you a happy 1-year milestone after this and many more years to come. Thank you again for joining us.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.